So from an evolutionary perspective, our emotions are older than our capacity to think logically and rationally around them. And this makes them incredibly powerful. They are coming from our deep subconscious, and they have one thing that they need to do for us: influence our behavior towards action. Now, let me just join some dots for you. In the previous topic, I spoke about the mental filters and lenses, and it's about how they process the experiences from the environment that will determine our well-being. Well, ultimately, these filters and lenses are impacting on our emotions. And what can happen is, if we are not paying attention to our emotions, we will not pay attention to how they influence our behavior. And this can reinforce the lens, which can reinforce the emotion, which can reinforce the behavior. And that can lead us into a downward spiral in terms of our well-being. So let me give you an example. If we have an attitude that traffic is always a painful experience, when I go into traffic to go to work, what can happen is I've got these negative emotions around traffic, and if somebody pushes in, these negative emotions can translate into negative behavior. I could be hooting at them, screaming or shouting or whatever the case may be, and they'll be doing the same back at me maybe. And as soon as this happens, I can start saying, oh, you see, driving in traffic is always a painful experience, so that reinforces the attitude, and then that attitude will just reinforce the emotion again when I get in the car the next time. And as you can see, it just becomes a holding pattern. It's like Groundhog Day. You just experience the same again and again. And this is where awareness steps in around emotions. We start noticing the emotion. We start noticing how it influences our behavior. And as we start making some changes to our behavior, it can also start changing the lens. So what we're going to be exploring in this topic and the next few after this is understanding emotions. This is an important part of working with our well-being. It's to have self-awareness around emotions. So in this specific topic, we will explore three main questions. The first one is, why do we have emotions? And then, what are emotions about? What sits behind emotions? And then a really important question I feel is, can we consciously start working with our emotional states? So why do we have emotions? Well, it's an evolutionary story of survival for our species. Our emotions are designed to ensure we take action around the 4 F's that will ensure that we survive, namely fight, flight, freeze, and fornicate. Yep, without procreation, our species wouldn't be here much longer. Now, there are more ancient parts of our emotions, such as fear. These were designed to keep us safe when we were in the wilderness and we were hunters and gatherers, and we'd go out there and maybe we'd come across the saber-toothed tiger. Well, our emotional cocktail would rise up within us when we saw the saber-toothed tiger, and it would ensure that we got away as quickly and safely as possible, and we would hopefully get to live another day. Now, these evolved into more complex emotions that would drive our behavior to ensure that we were not banished by the tribe, that we were accepted by the tribe. Why? It was all about safety in numbers. So, for example, there might be this drive to hone our hunting skills or to offer something to the tribe so that we would be accepted by the tribe, and maybe even raised within the ranks of the tribe, and this would ensure that we were safe. Now, when it comes to the emotion of love, I do not want to be a passion killer, but this is designed to ensure that we procreate and spread our genes. So, when we go out there and you meet somebody who's highly attractive and they see you as attractive, what's really happening behind the scenes is there's a little party of emotions happening in the background, and they are really hoping that you get together. Why? Because they want to create more humans. Now, yes, we have developed this ability to think rationally and logically, so it's not necessary that whenever we meet somebody, it's all about just making more kids. But yeah, these are what emotions were originally designed to do. So let's have a look. What are emotions? What is behind these chemical cocktails that create our behaviors and result in us taking action around the 4 F's? Behind every emotion is biochemistry. This is the chemical cocktail I was talking about. These are neurotransmitters and hormones, and what they broadly do is they influence us in such a way that they get us to move away from displeasure and pain, and they move us towards pleasure. This is the essence of survival for these emotions. So let's have a look at 3 pleasure hormones that can influence our behavior out of interest. There's phenylethylamine. This is PEA. This is called the love hormone. This is what creates this love, attraction, and infatuation between people. Then there's the feel-good hormone. This is dopamine. What it does do is it motivates our behavior towards receiving reward and pleasure. So, for example, When I spoke about that person in the tribe who was motivated towards raising his hunting skills, it could have been the reward that he was going for, that dopamine rush, which motivated him to rise within the ranks of the tribe. Now, there's other simpler ways to get the dopamine rush. You can eat chocolate cake, you can drink alcohol. These are more the unhealthy ways of doing it. But there's more healthier ways, such as achieving a goal. It does exactly the same. And this is what motivates us towards growing. Now, there's oxytocin, the hug hormone. This motivates our behavior around our social interactions. It creates trust and empathy between people. It brings us together because of the safety in numbers. It does many other things, but one of the basics is, for example, when a mother gives birth to a child, there's a flood of oxytocin. The moment the child starts breastfeeding, there's oxytocin that is released into the mother. And actually, it also is released into the father, even though he doesn't do any physical childbirthing. But what this oxytocin does is it creates a bond between the family. And this bond will ensure that the child will survive and grow up. So let's look at what happens when we are in stress hormones, when we are dealing with pain. Well, there's two major hormones that we're dealing with. The first one is adrenaline. This is known as the fight or flight hormone. And what it's designed to do, it's designed to increase our heart rate, our blood pressure, getting blood to where it's needed. It expands air passages in the lungs so we get more oxygen, and it enlarges the pupil of the eye so we in that state to start fighting. And this actually activates when we're in the traffic. When you have that negative attitude about traffic and somebody pushes in, you might have adrenaline going through your body, and this is resulting in your behavior where you're shaking your fist. And the big question is it necessary when you're in the traffic? Yes, maybe it's more necessary when you're facing that saber-toothed tiger, but we'll explore this a little later on. The other one is the stress hormone, cortisol. This actually helps the body respond to stress or danger. It controls our blood pressure and it reduces inflammation, and it increases our metabolism of our glucose and regulates some body functions that aren't crucial in the moment. But here's the thing, in the modern day age, what can happen is we are facing a lot more stressful situations, and this cortisol could be going into our system way more longer than what it was designed to do. And as a result, it starts to have a negative impact on our body. It suppresses our immune system. It increases our blood pressure and sugar levels. It's not a very healthy hormone to have in the long term, but it's very necessary in the short term. Now, we will be working with some tools to give you a clue on how to reduce cortisol as we are working in this VUCA environment that can raise these levels, but we'll get to that in due course. So as you can see, our lenses, as they influence our emotions, what they really are doing is unconsciously playing chemist with our bodies. So here's a question. Can we now step in and consciously do the same? Can we now consciously play chemist with our brain and body in such a way that it's more conducive to our well-being? Well, we can, and there's a reason for this. Well, our brain doesn't know the difference between what it sees in front of it and what we are thinking or imagining. So, for example, with the uncertainty that lies ahead, we could imagine many unfavorable scenarios that are awaiting us in the future. Now, the brain doesn't go, well, okay, that's going to happen then, but you're perfectly safe right now. It treats those threats as if it's happening right now, and it treats those threats as if they're the saber-toothed tiger, so it releases the chemistry that's required to deal with it. It's the same with recalling a memory from the past that made us angry. As we do that, we bring it into the present moment. The brain, we start getting angry because the brain treats it as if it's happening now. So we bring up all the same emotions that go with anger, and we can end up living the past again and again. But what can happen now is with awareness, we start going in and consciously paying attention to our thinking, which we'll do later on in the course. But for now, I'll give you a very practical exercise that shows you how we can start playing chemist with our bodies. If you close your eyes right now and for 20 seconds, imagine that you are hugging somebody that you really love. Your brain will treat it as if it's happening right now, and it will release oxytocin into your body, and you'll notice the difference in how you're feeling after the 20-second visualization of hugging the person. So as we finish off this section, I leave you with a wonderful quote. I am not what has happened to me. I am what I choose to become. So I will see you in the next topic, where we're going to continue exploring emotions and the subconscious. And until then, take care and stay aware.